to Life in Surround. I'm here with another surround album review. Today, it's my pleasure to possibly introduce to you Coldplay's Head Full of Dreams. Obviously, many people out there know about this album. Coldplay are one of the biggest bands in the world, especially since Super Bowl halftime show. I had fallen out of touch with Coldplay after their first 4 albums or so, I would say. Was aware that they're still around, saw singles on TV and heard them on the radio every now and then, and just found them to be okay, but you know, it was time for me to move on musically to other groups. And I was excited though when this album was slated for a 5.1 remix, just because, like I said, Coldplay are a giant band. It's a mainstream album. It's a new album that received a 5.1 mix at release as a part of the initial push of the album. I featured it in my top 15 original surround mixes of the last few years. That's a video that I did while I was still overseas, just trying to get this channel spun up. So, very exciting. I know that it has done pretty well because it very rapidly went out of print, and to get the Blu-ray is pretty expensive now. And so bottom line, musically, you know, you can go YouTube this, Pandora, do what you gotta do to audition the music in stereo. It's either for you or it's not. I've got to say that upon putting this on, I was pleasantly surprised. This album is very up. It is very happy and joyful and uplifting, I guess is how I would put it. So I definitely have room in my life for music like that. I don't need everything to be a downer. So that gets good marks from me. Musically, this is solidly situated in the light pop rock area, and that will never be a favorite for me, but you know, when you do have very clean elements, you do allow for just some pristine production, clarity of parts. So sonically, this album is very nice. I like it musically well enough, just because, like I said, it's happy stuff. So anyway, no real fault there. As far as the mix goes, I think they did an outstanding job. They pretty much stick to mixing 101, where you have the main elements up front, supportive elements in your surrounds. We're not talking about absolutely throwaway elements like reverbs. You have keyboard parts, you have vocal overdubs, guitar overdubs. For the last song, you even have this like really nice acoustic part. Most of the album is very electronic sounding, and then all of a sudden, like to wrap up the album, you have this extremely lush, organic, realistic, warm sounding acoustic guitar, and it's featured very prominently in the rears. They released this Blu-ray as a standalone, which I always appreciate, so you don't have to invest in a horribly expensive box set. Surround sound mix by Rick Simpson, Emily Lazar, Scott Jacoby at the Lodge, with assistance by Chris Allgood. So apparently, you know, it took all hands on deck to pull this 5.1 mix off. Very colorful, very happy stuff. So yeah, I dig it. It will get more listens around my house, so it's not ready to go on the for sale pile, though I'm not sure over time if this will end up being a favorite album of my family. If it ends up in rotation, it stays. If it falls into obscurity, it goes. That's my rules around here. I'm in kind of a rent your music philosophy where you shouldn't hold on to stuff that has sat on your shelf for 20 years. If you haven't spun it, send it to a better home and free up that budget for more music. So anyway, this has been a review of Head Full of Dreams by Coldplay. 5.1 Blu-ray standalone release for a new, modern, mainstream, mega big album. So kudos to Coldplay, kudos to Parlophone Records. You're doing lots of good stuff in my world. Kudos to those involved in the mix. I think you guys did an outstanding job. I really can't find fault with this album. I see here on Quadraphonic Quad that I have not ever voted for this album. Sonically, this gets high marks. I don't think they could have sonically done this much better. So I'd say it's in the 9 or 10 range. Mix-wise, I don't know. Maybe they could have got more aggressive with it and just gone crazy with some more active panning every now and then, and they didn't. But I would say the mix is at least in the 8 to 9 range. And content-wise, not my favorite, so I would shave off a couple points for that, just because a 10 out of 10 ought to mean something, and it's not like these guys like really dug deep and cranked up the guitars and wrote some fantastically wild, proggy 5/4, 11/8 type stuff. They're playing it pretty safe, behaving themselves very nicely for a pop rock effort. So I think what I'm going to settle on. But you know, here's the wild card. The fact that they put out a mix for a new mainstream album and they offered it as a standalone, so at least if you jumped on it while it was in print, it wasn't outlandishly expensive. So I was going to settle in to like a 7 or 8. But I think just because they chose to do this mix, and they did it well, and it sold out, and that's got to be good for this hobby of mine. I'm going to settle in on a 9. It's fun. It's something that I would definitely appreciate my son getting into, little toddler. So it's a winner for me. So congratulations, Coldplay. I never would have suspected that you would rope me in with a later album, but you did.